Hey, good morning. Bob here. It's Sunday, the 19th of July, 2026. And I'm not sure what we're doing today, but I thought I'd put the shellac on the top of this guitar to protect it during the binding and the purfling stages. So I just wanted to show you how I do that. And once again, this is how I do it. It might not be the same way you would do it or someone else would do it. Okay, so let me start at the beginning. I do have some shellac. It's essentially September of 25, so I'm not going to waste it. It's good enough for this process. I'll show you that in a minute. So I don't have to make any, is my point. Let me take this off. So essentially, the top has been second graduated, as in the previous video. Set of 3 videos second graduating the top. I've sanded it to 320, and the finish that I put on will not be my final finish. Most of it indeed will be sanded off when I scrape the bindings. I have a dummy fingerboard here, which is a 650 scale length. It's 62 millimeters at the 12th fret wide and 52 millimeters at the nut wide. My nut is 5 millimeters wide, so I have it right on the 5 millimeter line at the end of the fingerboard, and in fact the 12th fret is right where it should be, on the neck to body joint, where they connect. Also, I have a center line on the fingerboard, and I have marked it with a ruler so that when I line the center line of the fingerboard up with the mark at the end of the soundboard here, I have a little mark, which is the center line down here. That's how I get my fingerboard straight, left to right, okay? So, in other words, and I've clamped this in place with a couple of big pinch clamps. And that line's right up on my dot down here. So the line at this point, and at that point all line up. So I know right now that the fingerboard is centered left to right. Okay? It's right in the middle. Alright, that's been established. Now I have a couple of dummy frets in here, a couple of little short offcuts. I filed off the tang, pushed them down into the 12th fret, and just scotch taped them in place. And it's close enough for what I'm doing right now. The next step is to take a bridge. I machined this and a whole bunch of others on my table saw years ago, and I will do the rest of the work before I, of course, glue on the bridge. Now the bottom of this has to be scooped out to fit the doming of the top. I haven't done that yet, and I do that with a scraper. I put this in a vise and I bend the scraper blade and I scoop out more at the middle and none at the edges I make it concave so that when I flip it over and put it on the soundboard, it fits perfectly to the dome. Now, I haven't done that yet, so this is going to slip around a little bit. But it's okay, because all I'm doing is wiping on some shellac. So I locate the bridge where it needs to go based on the fingerboard. I have this jig I made up years ago, and it has a little ebony indexing, offcut piece of ebony, and I butt it up against these frets, put this end down into the saddle slot, okay? And then I know that the distance from the 12th fret to the middle of the saddle will be half the scale length plus 2 millimeters. So in this case, the scale length is 650 millimeters. So that would be 325 to the 12th fret, the middle of the 12th fret, and 327 from the middle of the 12th fret to the middle of the saddle. That's close enough for now. Now once I get the distance this way established, I will take a ruler and measure the end of the bridge. In this case, it's 3.5 inches plus about a 64th. And in this side, it's the same. Okay? So once again, for right now, I'm just centering the bridge, the actual bridge blank, left to right. I'm putting it in the center for right now. That'll change later before I glue the bridge on, and I'll go into that later. Okay, so the bridge is in the approximate place right now. I would say it's within a 32nd of an inch, maybe even tighter, maybe even a 64th of an inch. It's pretty close to where it's going to be when I glue it on. Okay, so I'm going to take off this contraption. I'll leave it up so you can see it. I'm going to remove the bridge because I've located approximately where it's going to go. I use this 1/4 inch masking tape, and I'm going to give you a little demo here. I pull it off, cut a piece. The ends of it I bend over so that it's easy to grab when I need to pull it off. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take the tape, stick it to my clothing a couple of times. I don't want this to stick hard on the top. Now, I've got this 62 millimeter wide here. Now typically, this is a 52-62. This is an old dummy, and I am too. But in any case, my typical fingerboard is 53-64, okay? And sometimes I'll even make this 65. It gives you more room on the first string so that you don't slip over the edge when you play. We'll get into that later. Right now it's a 52-62. I'm going to put this tape right alongside the fingerboard here, butting it up against the fingerboard. Okay, that's close enough. I'm going to make another one for the other side. 1/4" masking tape. You can buy it online. It's pretty cheap. Stick it to my clothing a couple of times. And now I am going to put it right up against the edge of the fingerboard here. I might add, this stuff is much harder with one eye than when I used to have two good eyes. Okay, there it is. So I've just lightly put it in place. So, just to review, the top is sanded to 320. It's been second graduated. There's a series of 3 videos that I just shot a couple of days ago to show you how I did that. We got a dummy fingerboard on just to show me where the fingerboard is going to be so that I can mask off when I start to put some shellac on. And same here. So the next step is to take some masking tape. Now, seems to me I use blue tape. I switched over from masking tape a while ago and I started using blue tape here. It has less tack than masking tape. I like that. But I always worry about the color of it bleeding, you know. So I'm not going to use it today. I'm going to go back to my regular masking tape. I'm going to pull off a piece here, longer than necessary. I am going to stick this to my pants. Maybe 3 times. Get most of the fuzz off. Okay. And I'm going to put this inside of the border here, the inside border of this masking tape. I'm going to leave about 1/16 of an inch gap between the 2 tapes. At this end, I'm going to mark it with a pencil. Lightly. And I'm just going to cut it with a pair of scissors. Or as we used to say in Boston, scissors. All right, I'm going to stick that on there. It's close enough. This is so that I don't get finish under the bridge. I like to keep it clean. I don't like to remove it later, it being shellac. So this is going to protect the top when I wipe on the shellac. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to line it up. Leave about 1/16 of an inch gap between the tapes. Get to the end, I'll mark it here. pull it back and cut that off. Okay, so what I have now is, let's take the red pencil, between the inside edge of the 1/4-inch tape and the outside edge of the masking tape, the big wide masking tape, I have approximately a 1/16 of an inch. So what that means is when I put the shellac on, it's going to go under the bridge, okay, by about a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to do the same when I French polish. I want it to go under the bridge, okay? And before I glue on the bridge later on, at the very end of guitar making, it's the last thing I do. Before I glue the bridge on, I am going to have the whole top French polished, maybe about 75% of the way French polished. So when I glue the bridge on, the finish is going to actually go right under the edges of the bridge by a little tiny bit, like a 1/16 of an inch. Let's say no more than 2 millimeters, okay? Now that I have this in place, I'm not going to push it super hard, but I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on it, just a little bit like that, okay? Now that that's done, there's one thing I don't like. I have a little bit extra here. I'm just going to take that off with a sharp knife. If I had one. Okay, got it off. I cut it slightly unevenly. That's fine. Now we're going to remove the locating tape, carefully, slowly. I'm going to stick it on my workbench here. Maybe I'll use it again. You can see it's not on very tight. By bending the ends of the tape over, you don't have to go digging for it. There we go. Okay, so that tape is located. That's where the bridge is. Now that I have this located, this tape on the edges of the fingerboard, I can remove the fingerboard. Okay, I'll put that off to the side. Now I'm going to use 1/2 inch masking tape for this one. I don't need as much tape, so we're going to stick it on my pants here. Okay, and I'm looking at this tape. The way it's cut, one edge is cut better than the other. I'm going to put the better edge up against the locating tape. Now I can remove this locating tape. And I'm going to get rid of this at the sound hole. Do the same on the other side. Stick it on my pants a few times. The idea is to let it get some lint on it. Now I'm going to take this. This one's a little shorter, but it'll all work out here. Okay. About the same. Get rid of the locating tape. Stick it over here on my workbench. Take a knife and cut the tape at the sound hole. Okay. So, hopefully you can see that from up there. You know, you can see the tape here and the tape here, okay? All right. Let me check the camera real quick. Okay, that's good. I'm going to zoom in a little bit now, so forgive the camera movements here. I think that's, sorry about the movement, turning the wrong knob. Okay, that's fine. We're going to keep rolling. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just hit this with a tack cloth real quick. It's been a few days, a couple of days, and this is a clean, new tack cloth, just to get the dust off of it. Okay, that's fine. Next step, I'm going to pre-paint the rosette. I have my shellac here. I have a little bowl. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Just checking the camera. Now, I've got a camel hair brush. The end of it is cut off, and there's a reason for that. I won't go into it. But in any event, it's a lovely brush. The solvent for shellac, of course, is alcohol. I'm going to need some alcohol, and instead of using Everclear, I will just use a little of this when the time comes to clean my brush. Okay, so essentially I am just going to, just to be safe, I'm going to take a little quarter of a paper towel, put it inside the guitar, just in case I have a drip or something. I am going to put some shellac in this little bowl, and we're going to paint this on. I'm going to start with the outside. We just keep going in the same direction. You can see how much darker the rosette became in that process. You let that sit for a minute or two and soak up. It soaks up a lot because there's a lot of end grain. This middle tile section is all end grain, and so are these little zigzags. They're all made of end grain. Now that's probably adequate. I'm just going to go a little bit more. I'll start over here. And because I'm right-handed, okay, that's going to be fine. Okay, I'm happy with that. So, I'm going to, I have a tiny bit of shellac left in here. I want to get this brush cleaned. I'm going to take a little alcohol, put it on this rag, clean this shellac out. There was just a tiny bit in the bowl. I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol in the bowl and clean out my brush. Okay? And I am going to let that sit. All right. So, I'm sure it looks quite a bit differently up there now from your camera angle. I'm going to take, what I've got here is cheesecloth. I have a piece about this long, and I've kind of folded it over into this, and then I'm just going to make a little, sort of a little pad with it. It doesn't have to be pretty. All it's going to do is absorb shellac. Okay, I'm going to put it in the middle of a piece of t-shirt, you see? This is not French polishing, this is just, I'm going to use it like a French polish pad, but there's not going to be any oil on it. There's not going to be any alcohol other than just straight 2-pound cut shellac, okay? And when I do this, I will have this entire top done in about 30 seconds. I'm going to do multiple coats, and I'm going to start with one. I'm actually going to kill the air for this part. You'll hear it gets a little quieter in here. So we're going to saturate this pad with alcohol, with shellac, excuse me. And we're going to go directly onto this soundboard. You see how I'm not going to stop. The only place I'm going to stop is to reload quickly. Off to the side. Not going to do it over the soundboard. Start at the bridge. And not stopping. Keeping the pad going so I don't get any lap lines. Okay. I don't think I missed anything. That's just a quick first coat. We're going to do it again. Get a nice wet pad here. And this time I'm going to do this side first. With a nice wet pad. Keep the pad moving. let that sit for a minute. I'm making no effort to French polish. And because I pre-painted the rosette, you can see that my pad is very clean. There isn't any color bleed off from the rosette onto the pad. Okay? This dries very quickly because it's it's already dry. Okay, I can touch it, it's dry. So, I'm going to do one more time. Lots of shellac. And here we go. Working quickly. Making sure I don't have a lap line. And why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing it is to protect the top during the binding and purfling process. Protect it from everything, but most importantly, the tape that I use. Let me check the camera. Right at the moment, it's 79 degrees in my workshop. It's 10 minutes to 10, Sunday morning, the 19th of July. Relative humidity in the shop right now is 40%. Just FYI. I'm going to do one more session here. The more I put on, the more careful I have to be with the pad, of course, because there's no oil on it. Now, most of this shellac is going to be sanded off. This will be it right here. Okay, I think that's fine. Now, I can keep this pad, put it in my little jar, which I will, and I might be able to use it again, we'll see. But the purpose of doing this, now that when I route the edges and I glue in the bindings and the purflings, if you've watched any of the previous videos, you'll see that I use a lot of masking tape in the process of installing the bindings and the purflings. So what this shellac will do, it will keep the top safe from the masking tape, and it will also protect it from minor scratching, perhaps by the router or whatever. Okay? So the next step, this will dry, and probably before I continue with this one any further, I'll probably go to the other guitar, which has a cedar top. I will graduate that top. That is going to have a little bit less graduation, only because it's a very, very lightweight cedar top, and it's a little bit thinner than this top. However, I will graduate it in the normal way, and I'll do the same thing to it. Mask off the fingerboard and the bridge, and wipe on several coats of shellac. Now I'm touching this shellac right now with my finger, and it's dry to the touch. However, the rosette isn't, because it's end grain. So it's going to take a little longer for that to dry. And I really don't need any more than that. That will protect it. Most of the area that needs to be protected is, like 3 inches in, because that's where the tape's all going to go. So I guess that's it. I'm going to clean up here, and I hope this helped somebody. Like I said, when I scrape the bindings and sand the bindings, etc., I will be removing most of this shellac, and I won't use any sandpaper on this top other than 220 and 320 from this point on. I'm not going back to 150. It'll be 220 and 320, and then French polishing. Okay? So there you have it, and have a great Sunday and a good upcoming week. Bob out. Thanks for watching.